Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard Radio Aviation Excellence, the Wright Flyers Sky Bridge. This is your captain, Randy Wright speaking, and I want to take this opportunity to personally thank you for tuning in to this brief message. Well, ladies and gentlemen, one of the things that we can see is coming to the surface with respect to what is currently going on in regards to Donald J. Trump, but particularly having a meeting with Democratic congressional leadership in regards to the so-called deferred action against the children of illegal aliens, or DACA, or even more colloquially, the DREAM Act, is that during the disastrous debacle and fiasco known as the 2016 presidential election cycle, we know that the now president of these United States of America had made mention of President Ike Eisenhower's Operation Wetback plan back in 1954. Now, yes, Operation Wetback was not exactly what we would call a politically correct name today. It occurred in May of 1954, and essentially what the federal government went about doing in May of 1954 was going about and collecting these illegal aliens that had decided to enter the United States during the height of the Second World War without actually going through the proper channels of our well-established immigration and naturalization laws. And essentially, it was what they are now attempting to call some sort of heartless mass deportation campaign. But, folks, there is certainly more to it than that. There is more to it than what meets the eye, because it tells us that we have encountered these illegal alien problems for generations now. For decade upon successive decade. And the essential problem that we keep running into is that the government keeps wanting to kick the can down the road. They do not want to address the issue, and so that leaves the true ultimate wielders of popular sovereignty in these United States of America scrambling, finding that they are exposed to greater risk and danger, that they find themselves held to a higher standard than non-citizens, and as such, these non-citizens essentially have the status of a shadow population within the heart of the land of the free and the home of the brave. But again, that is not something that we can afford to ignore. It's not something we can afford to turn a blind eye to, because when you stop and think about it, what all of this does is it speaks to what we have seen time and again. It's always the claim that it's work that American workers won't do. But the fact of the matter is, that's not entirely true. The reason that Operation Wetback went into effect was because the returning GIs were coming home to find that those that particularly lived in agrarian areas had no work to return to, that they were being undercut by individuals who had entered into these United States of America illegally. And that's part of the thing. We all hear the line reiterated time and again, almost to the point of it reaching ad nauseum, of, well, these young children who entered this country without the thought of their own, without their own fruition, are innocent, that they should not be held accountable for the sins of their parents. But stop and think about it this way. Let's say you're going to an amusement park, and the parents sneak the children in. They're still going to kick the children out because their parents made an irresponsible decision to break rules and guidelines and law. That's essentially the same thing. And it cannot be about morality per se here. It has to be that we are still a nation of laws and not of men, and it is exceedingly desirable for us to continue with the complete and total general application of law. If we get away from that, if we get to selective enforcement of a law, that begins to truly create a rift within our nation. It's as the old adage goes, and I know that I've mentioned this on previous episodes of our state-of-the-art radio program, but the old adage goes that the United States is a nation of laws and not of men. And the reason for this is that we as a nation and people choose to unify not around a language, not around any particular custom or culture or tradition. We choose to unify around the supreme law of the land. And that supreme law of the land is none other than our shared Constitution pursuant to Article 6, Clause 2, which is known in the common American vernacular as the Supremacy Clause. Our Constitution is the supreme law of the land. The Constitution clearly established that immigration and naturalization standards would be set by Congress, and Congress enacted that via the Immigration and Nationalization Act. So here we are. We have a federal government that, pursuant to a questionable executive order that does not pass constitutional muster, is selectively enforcing the law. We have a man who, throughout his entire presidential campaign last year, vowed that in the first day DACA would be repealed or overturned. It wasn't. Now, he's making a deal with the devil, with Nasty Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, to let these people stay so long as they build a wall. But ladies and gentlemen, if that sounds a bit like deja vu, it's because it is. It's the same nonsense that we got with the 1986 amnesty bill. It didn't work then, and it certainly isn't going to work now. And the American people are sick and tired of this. They do not want their country to lose its sovereignty. And let's face it, folks, without borders, without well-defined and well-defended borders, a nation simply ceases to exist, becomes a region, and that's it. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the deeper meaning behind all of this push to say that it's, lacking in compassion. It's incompassionate to want to send these people back to their country of origin. But there's a counter-positive to that argument, which is simply this. If they are such wonderful contributing members, why should we deprive them from their own home country? Their parents were essentially depriving their home country of this. And when the illegal aliens are over here waving the tricolor banner of Mexico with the eagle of Aztlan clutching the snake in its beak as it stands on this cactus, this agrero cactus, in the heart of the land of the free and the home of the brave, why don't we send them back to where they're so proud to be from in the first place? You see, that is the intellectually disingenuous disconnect that has been existing throughout this entire debate. It's what has not been discussed, and it's something that needs to be discussed. Of course, the rank and file of the graduates of Pavlov's School of Journalism for the salivating mainstream media aren't going to press this issue. Because, again, this goes against their propagandist narrative and agenda, and come hell or high water, they are completely dedicated to the total and utter annihilation of these United States of America, both as a nation and people. And that is something we cannot tolerate, nor is it something we can turn a blind eye to. And the reason I point to Operation Wetback from 1954 is it's proof positive that we could do this, but there was a different cultural attitude within the United States of America at the time that we don't have now. So it means that we have to take this in an incremental fashion. We have to be willing to be as meticulous and as dedicated to preserving our liberties, and even more so than the frothing at the mouth Fabian socialist leftists have been at tearing it down. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, they have been doing that incessantly and meticulously throughout the course of the past 150 plus years. When we are cognizant and aware of that fact, then, and only then, can we begin the real process of placing this nation squarely back onto the path to prosperity.